Hello everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to MusicForever, where today I'm going to be reviewing the newest collaborative album between Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist Alfredo. This was a project that I was pretty excited to listen to, considering I like both artists involved, and I was really excited to see what they were going to do on a full-length project together, and to see if it was going to live up to my expectations. And after giving this thing a good few listens, it certainly did. I think this is a pretty great project overall, and just one that has a lot of what I like in both of these artists, just put into a nice, tight, compact album experience that I enjoyed. When it comes to the production here on this project, overall I think it's pretty great. I think that The Alchemist does a really great job of putting out not only well-produced instrumentals here on this thing, but also really well-fitting instrumentals for Freddie Gibbs' flows here on this project, and just a good variety of instrumentals too when it comes to the sounds that are present here on this thing. I would say a lot of the instrumentals here on this project kind of have this very smooth, laid-back feel to them that I think is really well done. But there are some tracks on this record that break away from this to some extent. For example, the second track on this thing, God Is Perfect, kind of has this somber instrumental to it that I really like, especially when it's paired up with Gibbs' performance here on this track, but I'll touch upon that a bit more later on. I also like how some of the instrumentals on this thing could have a bit of a darker feel to them at times, especially on tracks like Frank Lucas, for example, which has a great feature on it from Benny the Butcher, who pairs up really nicely with this very dark instrumental as well. It's just a really standout moment on this project. I also like the opening track's production too, 1985. I liked the kind of like guitar melody that's going on here on this track. I think it's really well done. I think it's one of the highlights on this thing from a production standpoint. Just a really cool sound the Alchemist was able to pull together here for this project. Though, of course, the pairing of the instrumentals and the flows here on this project is a big part of the appeal of this record for me personally, just because of how perfectly the instrumental sound and the sound of the flows of not only Freddie Gibbs, but the featured artist pairs up with each other. They make a very nice, tight package. I especially love how on tracks like, to go back to what I mentioned before, God Is Perfect, which had, as I said before, this kind of sad-sounding instrumental to it. I like how Gibbs' performance here on this track has this kind of raspy, delivery to it that I think just pairs up nicely with the instrumental. It just feels like both The Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs are on the same wavelength here and making something that is just really well put together and well organized. And the same could be said for all of the tracks here on this record too, not just that one. And when it comes to Gibbs' flows here on this project, they're just really great sounding overall. I like the amount of diversity that he gives you with his different flows here on this thing. No two tracks really sound all that similar when it comes to how he's rapping on them. I like how he's able to sound not only really technical in a sense, but also just really smooth with how his flows are delivered here on this thing. It never sounds too forced or anything quite like that. It all just sounds super natural, and especially when you pair it up with a lot of these kind of chill, laid-back instrumentals, it just leads to this very natural sounding experience. I also really like how there's a lot of passion and charisma put into Freddie's flows here on this project. He just sounds really energetic when he needs to. On some of the more somber moments on this thing, he's, matches that tone appropriately. It's just really great from a rapping standpoint here on this thing. When it comes to the lyrics on the record, for the most part, it's stuff that you would typically expect here on a Freddie Gibbs project. You have lots of talk of him doing things like dealing cocaine, for example, though there are some moments that do break away from this for one reason or another. For example, there are some moments on this project that tackle the topic of racism and police brutality, something that is especially relevant around the time of this album's release, though of course in the writing for this record I'm guessing they obviously were not inspired by the specific events that are impacting so many people right now, but I think that actually just further proves the point of some of the lyrics here on this project, just the fact that some of these issues are just so long-lasting, and that's why people, right now as I'm filming this video, are out, protesting and doing what they're doing in order to improve things, because things need to change, just given how long this bad stuff has been going on. Of course, that isn't to say that all the lyrics here on this record are super serious. There's plenty of fun, playful, kind of laid-back moments too that are also really enjoyable. Overall, the lyrics on this thing are pretty solid. I will say if I have any complaints that, of course, as I kind of alluded to before, from a lyrical standpoint, Gibbs isn't doing anything super new on this project that he hasn't done before on some previous releases, but when he's delivering these lyrics so well, does it really matter that much? Personally, it doesn't really matter that much to me. I still find this project really enjoyable, and yeah, the rapping here is just fantastic. The features on this project are also pretty great too. I think they do an excellent job of enhancing whatever tracks they happen to be involved in. And in some instances here on this project, the featured artists seem to try to match the similar tone or feel to what Gibbs is going for on the given songs. For example, Rick Ross on the song Scotty Beam, or Benny the Butcher on Frank Lucas, for example. Though, of course, both these artists bring their own unique twists to whatever Gibbs is generally trying to do on these songs. I'm not trying to say that they sound similar to what Gibbs is doing, not whatsoever, but I feel like tonally they're doing something a bit similar. Though, of course, you have some artists that are also featured on this project that do their own thing too, and it plays to the song's strengths. For example, you have Tyler, the Creator, on the track Something to Rap About, where his personality that's shown through in his verse is just very different from anything Freddie Gibbs has going for him, not only just on this song, but on this album in general. Mostly just because Tyler and Gibbs are just very different personalities in hip-hop. They have very different backgrounds, very different stories when it comes to their come-ups, and just the general lyrics they happen to include in their projects. They're pretty different rappers, and on this track I like how you get to see that fact on full display here through their lyrics and what they decide to talk about and the rapping styles and all of that. But I especially love how, regardless of that fact, they both pair up just so nicely with the instrumental that this track has, which is one of my favorites on the record, I should add, just because of how smooth and nice it sounds. The feature from Conway the Machine on the track Babies and Fools is another moment on the project where the feature in question happens to have a bit of something different going for them, in this case an especially personal verse, which I felt like was really a nice addition to this track, and just one that paired up again really nicely with Gibbs' flow and the instrumental that the Alchemist provided. Another fantastic track on this thing. Another thing that I really appreciate about this record is the presentation of it all, especially with how this record is structured and how it's just a pretty short to the point listen at about 35 minutes or so in length. There's just really no fat present here on this record. It seems like Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist had an idea in mind when it came to this record, and they give you exactly that and nothing more. And I think it works to this album's advantage because it just feels like a very nice, tight, to the point package where you're not getting any fat, like I said before. There's nothing on here that feels out of place. It's all very focused, and it's at the same time all really great too. So overall, Alfredo is a pretty great record in my opinion. It has fantastic and varied production from The Alchemist, has some great flows and rapping from Freddie Gibbs, as well as some really nice lyrics too at times. You have some excellent features as well, and a really nice presentation to this thing too, and a nice runtime as well that keeps things short, simple, and to the point. Overall, Alfredo just ends up being a really enjoyable hip-hop experience, and definitely it's one of my favorite hip-hop albums of 2020 so far. Certainly one that I'll be coming back to in the future. Just a really fun experience with just great performances from everybody involved. If you're a fan of hip-hop, if you're a fan of any of the artists involved here, you should certainly give this thing a listen. You won't be disappointed. But yeah, overall that's just my thoughts on this project. If you happen to disagree, that's perfectly fine. In fact, feel free to leave your own thoughts on this album in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, make sure you also leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more music-related content. Things like album reviews, track reviews, things of that sort. If you enjoy that kind of content, make sure you subscribe. Again, thank you guys for watching this, and stay golden.